a youngster, there were those spring days when all of a sudden my grandfather would begin rolling up in his big Buick, usually with an uncle or a cousin behind him in a pickup truck. And he would roll through the streets and call out to all of the neighborhood kids to come and jump on board, to come get in the pickup truck because we were going out to the field to pick rocks. That was the spring ritual, going out and picking rock after rock after rock. Hopefully you had gloves, but not always. And if you had the high-top tennis shoes, which were the phase or the fad at that point in time, all the better, because that meant you could tie them up really tight and hopefully not get a lot of dirt into your shoes. And there was an understanding about the payment for picking rock. Everyone kept count of their own rocks, and you got 1 penny for every rock you picked. For young kids, that was quite the achievement. Especially as you started getting up to 400 or 500 or 600, things were looking pretty sharp. You knew you could buy a couple candy bars, some soda, or that you could set it aside and maybe wait for your next big outing in the big town of Fergus Falls or Alexandria, 35 miles away. That was all part of growing up. But then there was a hitch. One time, there was a neighbor who needed help picking rocks. So, we as kids loaded in and went out to this neighbor's field to help pick rocks. Now, when we were picking rocks with my grandfather, some got smaller rocks, some got bigger ones, and generally the older kids got many more. But here with this neighbor, even though we kept count of how many rocks we were picking, at the end of the day, he paid everyone the same. Our keeping track and our counting our rocks and trying to make sure we had achieved didn't matter. We all got the same amount. Imagine that as a kid. You know, you want to feel like you are doing your best job and you are doing your absolute best, counting hard, making sure every rock that you run across is in there. And what happens when the 4 or 5-year-old who's throwing in little pebbles gets the same as the older kids who are getting the bigger rocks or lifting the heavy rocks and really working up to make sure they're reaching the 600 and 700 and 800 count? Kids. Right? What happens when the field looks different? What happens when the labor isn't just about picking rocks, but it's us? How many times do we keep track of the hours, the minutes that we work? Or how many of us have our checklist going through one by one to make sure when we are working, we are getting them all done quickly, earning every penny that we deserve? We become those laborers. And the question is, who at the end of the day are we working for? And what does this person, what does this one have in store for us? And will we like it? That's another question. You see, as we hear this parable from Jesus, we are talking about a pretty incredible word. And it's been thrown around a lot in the last 3 years. I think some of you may have heard it, this word, economy. How many times have you opened up the paper or turned on the news and that news is about the economy, the good, the bad, the stock market up and down, the employment rate from 9 to 10 to 10.8, down to 8.9, back up. But today is about the economy in another way. Perhaps many of you are familiar with the base of this word, economy. Oikos is the Greek. It means house. So oikos, an onomy, is the running, the care of the house. But the economy today is not about the house of any particular corporation or even about the way that we view house. Rather, we are talking about the economy of God. And as I stressed in the reading of the scriptures, this economy challenges us. Because it's easy for us to be envious at this one who is so generous. Are you envious today because of this one who is so generous? This one who runs his household, her household. This one who gives for the earth in a way that may not be the way that we would do it, but rather with extreme generosity. That those who show up early in the morning, those who show up at the middle of the day, and at the end of the day are all equal. They are all paid equally, met with the same grace, the same love, the same caregiving. It's an incredible vision. Now, as I read the scripture, I wondered to myself, why would God work it out in this way? Wouldn't it be easier if God in this parable had simply been more like one of those grandparents that even if there is a little bit of a favorite, the money is slipped off to the side rather than in front of everyone else? Or if there is a child who needs a little bit extra help with books or other things, that the check just goes off in the mail and isn't announced to the whole rest of the world? But rather here, this landowner, this one who does the caregiving, the caretaking, makes a big deal out of it. And starts with those at the end and works backwards. And if you were at the beginning, wouldn't you be the one who's expecting a little bit more? A little bit more in terms of overtime pay, or in a sense that workman's or workwoman's bonus for having shown up early and put in